Hello, everyone. Welcome to another onboarding session. Today, we're going to be talking about student financial assistance and OSAP. My name is Tanisha Boyd. I'm a graduate program administrator with the team, and I'm also joined by my manager and coworker, Daniel Garcia. So if you, he may be chiming in at times to add any value or added details to anything that I mentioned throughout the presentation. So this presentation will be a high-level overview. The particular nuances and specificities of any sort of financial aid application that you have going on. We won't be answering that in that session. This is just to guide you and point you in the right direction. Before we begin, it is important that we acknowledge the land. And I do that by reading the land acknowledgement. We are speaking to you from Toronto to Toronto. The city is located in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bond them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. If you choose to find out more, or you're curious about why we acknowledge the land and want to learn more about the Indigenous peoples and folks that we share the land with, feel free to check out those links that are provided there once you receive the slide deck. Okay, so as incoming master's and PhD students, as you know, it goes without saying, it's important to start financial planning. And to do that, the first step would be creating a budget. So some of you may have just been coming out of your undergraduate studies or maybe previous master's studies. So maybe creating budgets is something that you've already engaged with. But some of you may be coming back to post-secondary after being away for a while. And you might feel like you don't know which way to start, which place to start. So when it comes to creating a budget, it's important to include all the costs you may incur for the academic year, which includes all the terms of the program. So some of you are in one-year programs, so that means that's 3 years, three terms, fall, winter, and spring, summer. If you're in a 2-year program, you may have 5 terms or 6 terms. So you want to think about that when you are looking at the tuition costs for the duration of your degree. You should know that the tuition fees have been updated on the admissions website. So you could take a look at that to see what the tuition for your program is for the 2026-2027 academic year. You also want to take a look at, you start thinking about what are you going to be living in the city? Are you going to be driving? What's the cost of parking? Is there a package parking deal you can get? Are you taking TTC or GO? Will you be buying food on campus? Or buying food around campus? There's certain discounts that you can get for being a student at TMU. So you want to look into those things and decide what that's going to look like in terms of cost of food and transportation. In terms of books, supplies, and product supplies and materials, it may be tricky to estimate the cost of those things at this juncture because with books and supplies, you may see on your course outlines when you get enrolled in your courses later on next month. You'll see a list of things you need for the course, but usually instructors recommend that students wait to the first class to see what books they need to buy, if they need to buy them. Maybe they're available at the TMU library. Maybe it's only online resources. So you can kind of budget some money for it, but I wouldn't that would be a flexible amount because you could get used books or it could be online supplies, etc. But in terms of your project supplies, if you're thinking about your MRP and your final project, you can anticipate what that cost may look like. And also living expenses. Are you living at home with family? Do you have a roommate? You want to think about all of those things when you're thinking about the cost of what it takes to study at TMU. And the link for budget resources, a hyperlink there. It gives you some prompts and helpful tips and tricks as you begin to create a budget for your graduate studies. And also, there are many ways to financially prepare in addition to creating your own budget by checking out our award scholarships and bursaries website. A few weeks ago, Mohammed Khan and myself discussed all of the different financial opportunities that are available on the TMU website. There's also OSAP, so Ontario Student Assistance Program for Ontario students. Out of province students may be able to engage with their various governments, provincial governments to get financial aid, or the government, the territory that they're from. You may be able to get some financial aid from your territory. And of course, there's bank loans and lines of credit. So of course, when it comes to financial aid, you're going to be engaging with the Student Financial Assistance website often. So we have the link there, and that will be shared with you either in the chat, or you're going to get all of the links when we share the presentation with you. Okay, so the Student Financial Assistance Department is responsible for administering OSAP and supports the administration of out-of-province and U.S. student loans. The Student Financial Assistance Office will be an important point of contact if you choose to take out a government loan. So when you're thinking about a loan, you're going to be going to the various loan websites first, like the OSAP website first. And then you create your application. And then after that is when, if you have any questions about submitting documents and things like that, you can engage with the Student Financial Assistance Office to help support you with that. And the same thing with out of province and US student loans. I think it's FAFSA is the acronym. Like once you have created an application in your various province, territory, or in the US, created your federal loan application, you can then begin to interact and engage with the Student Financial Assistance Office. You can connect with them through My Service Hub, which is a one-stop shop for very many student services. So the students don't have to get the runaround. They can go to one place to get help on various aspects of their education, including student financial assistance. So it's physically located in the first floor of the podium building, pod 150. However, it's one card access to get into the building. So from the south side at Gould in Victoria, there is an intercom there where you can buzz, tell the security while you're there, and then you get let in, and you just navigate through the building to get to podium 150. And you can see they're available on the phone and their phone number. And also there's in-person days that they're available, but student financial advisors are only available on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about contacting My Service Hub to speak to a student financial assistant advisor. Okay, so what is OSAP? OSAP is the Ontario Student Assistance Program. It is a government financial aid program that can help you pay for university. So when you get a loan through OSAP, you can use it towards tuition, books, your living costs. If you have children, it can help with childcare. If you have a disability, you can get extra funding to support the accessibility needs that you may have. So it can it's all encompassing in a way to support your ability to attend full-time studies. OSAP is open to Ontario residents of any age who are Canadian citizens, permanent residents, or a protected person. So to determine if you meet the eligibility criteria for OSAP, you want to go to the OSAP, official OSAP website, and that's also where you would begin your OSAP application. And you should know that, like, if, let's say, your home province is Saskatchewan, but you've been living in Toronto for a year because you were taking post-secondary studies, like that doesn't count as residency. You'd have to be here for 12 consecutive months or longer, and not because you were enrolled in full-time post-secondary studies. So then you may have to engage with your home province to get funding. But if you feel like you're in a little bit of an in-between situation, you're not sure, always reach out to the Student Financial Assistance Office for clarity on that. Okay, and unfortunately, OSAP is not available for international students. Okay, so important information about OSAP. So all required documents must be uploaded to the secure encrypted OSAP portal. The Student Financial Assistance Office does not accept documents by email, mail, or in person. So similarly to your application to TMU for your studies, you complete your application and then a portal was created, the same thing, but it's an OSAP portal specifically. You input your documents there. If you have questions about your documents, maybe you want to change something, you can speak to the Student Financial Assistance Office, but you want to upload your documents through the secure OSAP portal. Moving on, as a graduate student, you are a full-time student if you're enrolled in a full-time program, regardless of the number of courses you are taking. So in other words, I guess, for example, in a one-year program, students will have courses in the fall and winter terms, and often the spring summer term has no courses. You're enrolled in something called GD 1000, which is just a way of keeping you enrolled in the system as a graduate student, but you're not taking any courses, there's no coursework, but you're working on your MRP or final project. You're still considered a full-time student for the full year. Okay. Moving on. Full-time OSAP is assessed for the full year, fall, winter, spring, but is released in 2 installments in September and January. So again, so you're getting money for the full year, but you have to budget now to keep some money aside to pay for the spring summer term. Because as mentioned in a previous presentation, you have a degree fee for each term. So your OSAP funding will be deposited in fall and in the winter, but nothing in the spring summer. So it's incumbent on you to make sure that you're putting some money aside. Moving on. It's important that you check your My Service Hub account to make sure that your OSAP funds have arrived. And later on in the slide, there is a link to how to do an account inquiry to see if the funds have arrived. But if OSAP doesn't cover all of your fees, you are responsible for the outstanding balance. So as part of OSAP policy, like the funding that you receive automatically goes directly to the school first. And if there's any funds remaining, it goes to the student account. So if it covers all of your fees and you have some extra money, you want to put that aside for spring summer term, sometimes the money that you get kind of just offsets the cost of tuition for the term. You're then responsible for the difference. As mentioned in a previous presentation, you have until the end of the first month of each term, to the end of January the end of September for the fall term, until the end of January in the winter term, until the end of May in the spring summer term to make your payments. So as of right now, the OSAP application is open. So if you've applied already, you may have already begun to interact with the portal and documents and things like that and Student Financial Assistance Office. If you think that you may be looking at OSAP, you want to apply sooner rather than later, because sometimes it can delay when the funds are received in your account. And lastly, if your application information changes, like your income, for instance, you must update it ASAP, and you can check with the Student Financial Assistance Office to see how those changes will impact your OSAP. So let's say, with you receive funding that's external, that's not connected to, like Ryerson didn't facilitate the funding. So like for many programs, there's this mission funding, like Toronto Met Graduate Fellowship. You don't have to report that. We do that. We report it for you. But if there's an external scholarship that you got your hands on and you don't report that, it could eventually result in an overpayment on OSAP's end. So you just want to be very transparent with any changes in income, in your job, in awards, and things like that you may receive. You can submit your changes through the OSAP portal, but if you have any questions about that process, you're not sure what to do, you can go to the Student Financial Assistance website and or contact them directly via the means that were available to you on the previous slide. Okay, some helpful OSAP links. So this is not a full exhaustive list, but as you engage with a student loan, you may be wondering about document processing time and what deadlines are there. You know, I want to appeal. Maybe I got a decision that wasn't favorable. I wanted more money, or I didn't get any OSAP at all. Like, what can I do? So like these links are very helpful. You may or may not need them, but I do recommend that when you get your hands on these links, that you bookmark them, because navigating a university website can be like a beast. So having quick links bookmarked at your disposal will be advantageous to you, and it'll save you from getting confused on the website. Okay, so for domestic out-of-province students, you must seek government student aid from your home province. You must contact your applicable home province and liaise with them for that application. To submit funding forms, enrollment verification requests, or other required provincial and territorial documentation, you must complete a TMU out-of-province funding request form. So let's say your province is requiring TMU to verify certain information. You can't just email, there's funding at torontomu.ca. You can't email that account and just say, hey, you know, fill this out for us, fill this out for me, I need this done. You have to submit the request through the form only. Only requests through the form will be answered unless you're asked after you begin to engage with the form and someone gets back to you. If they ask you to email, then that's when you can use the email that that they have, the funding at torontomu.ca, but not before then, for this purpose, for submitting verification of documents. And for more information about out-of-province student aid, you can go to the link that's provided there, and we have all the province and territories and their various financial aid websites. And I mentioned that there would be a link to like almost like a job aid, where you can see how to do an account inquiry to confirm that funds have been received. And also in an upcoming onboarding session on July the 22nd, which is a Wednesday, from 2 to 3 p.m. Myself and my colleagues will be doing a presentation on my Service Hub and other important things that helpful tips and tricks. So we'll help you, walk you through the interface of your My Service Hub account. So if you're worried about, I don't know how to do this, we're going to walk you through that later on. And of course, note that out-of-province funding can take up to 20 business days for loans to be received by TMU and be posted to My Service Hub account. So when you're looking and you did your account inquiry, like the money's not there, you want to, from the date that everything has been accepted and approved, 20 business days, okay? Okay, so for international students, just like with the out-of-province students, you have to seek aid from your home country. And if you require paperwork to be signed or proof of enrollment certificate, you can contact our program office by way of the individual program accounts. And then we will produce and generate the documents that are needed or provide any sort of verification that is asked of us. But an important place for international student support is the important place for international students is the International Student Support Office and website. And they can provide support with immigration documents and student status letters, because as staff in the programs, we're not permitted legally to advise on some of the immigration documents and processes and visa paperwork and so on and so forth. So the International Student Support Office is a great important point of contact for international students. Okay, so I mentioned previously in the beginning of the presentation that, you know, maybe you're going to look at a loan or a line of credit potentially. So you want to, the availability of these kinds of financial products are vary by institution, but you want to look and see, does my bank or does the banks that I'm researching, do they have a student loan type of thing or student line of credit? And when in doing that, you want to take a look at, is there easy access to the funds? Like, will I be given a debit card? You want to look at, are there options to pay interest on the funds used and not on the full loan amount? You also want to look at, is there an option to convert to a loan after degree completion for manageable repayment? These are important things you want to think about because, and also you want to keep in mind, you want to ask when you're looking at these financial institutions, is there a grace period after you graduate that you can 6 months, 12 months for you to get on your feet, get employment, and then begin the repayment process with or without incurring interest. So you want to take a look at that as well. But of course, once you've done your online research on the financial institutions, whether it be like the major banks like TD, BMO, CIBC, or a credit union, once you've done your online research, you want to book an appointment with a financial advisor to see what products match best for you and will, excuse me, help advance your ability to comfortably attend full-time studies and not have to worry so much about the finances. And of course, you want to compare the different financial institutions and what they're offering because you want to get the best rate. Some of these banks, they like you could be banking with one bank, but another bank might have a better offer. So there's no harm in checking that out. And you may be in a place where you don't even need a line of credit, or maybe you're not, you have money saved up, or maybe you're financially okay. But sometimes if there's no financial penalty, it's kind of nice to have to take out a line of credit if the interest is not going to incur in it if you're not using it, just to have it as an emergency fund. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at financial institutions and the loans and financial products that they carry. Okay, so these are just additional sources to help financial studies. Again, can't emphasize enough the importance of looking at our scholarships and awards and website and the other external funding website. Also, as mentioned in the previous onboarding session, Award Spring, that database, once you're matriculated and you can start your Award Spring general application, all the awards will just populate in your dashboard. So you don't even, it takes the work out of looking for awards that are suitable for you. And then of course there's student employment. So if you check the careers website now, they have postings when you navigate through students, and then as you're an external candidate, you'll see a plethora of job postings. And there's also Career Boost as well. Which is a space where students get hired for different jobs at on campus. There's academic assistantships, which is we used to call it teaching assistantships. So with those job postings, you'll be facilitating and assisting with the teaching of courses, maybe like teaching assistant to a seminar or something like that. And then of course there's postings for research assistantships where you're helping advance the research endeavors of a faculty member. And usually people like to tie their own research to that. So like if they're interested in the same thing, like it's like, mutually beneficial and things like that. But when it comes to the academic assistantships, if you have an undergraduate area of specialty that you studied that is related to some of the postings, it doesn't have to, like, you can go ahead and apply to them. The career boost or the academic assistantships, research assistantships, need to tie to what you're capable of doing and what your CV demonstrates that you're eligible to apply for. And of course, there's external funding sources. You want to look at, your academics, your social background, your interests, like your identity, are you BIPOC, are you Indigenous, are you from the LGBTQ plus community, all of these aspects of you as a person, your social interests and things like that. You may find your religious affiliations, you may find that there's money out there, but as my mom always says to me, closed mouths don't get fed. So, you got to ask, you got to look, you got to find out where there's money out there. So you want to make sure you're asking around, engaging your communities to see how you can support your education. Okay, so that was a lot of information. I anticipate that you may have some questions. Um, you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question. Of course, like I'm not a student financial assistant specialist. You keep your questions general if possible, but opening the floor to any questions you may have.
I have a question, or I guess this might end up being a little too specific, but I know I tried to sign up for OSAP recently, and they had to connect with my UAC account, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Mhm.
And so I they said they'd respond to me in a few business days, and it's probably been over a week. So I was wondering, how long does that normally take? Should I reach out to someone in particular in regards to that?
Well, the processing time, like we did, there's a hyperlink in one of the slides about the processing time for things. I think
Mhm.
like I don't know the answer to that question, but if you feel like it's taking longer than they told you it would take, feel free to contact the Student
Okay.
Financial Assistance Office to follow up on that.
Okay,
Um,
that's good.
yeah.
I can just add one thing too. Just keep in mind last week was a holiday on the July 1st.
Good
So
point.
depending on when you sent it, your business days won't include that day. And that
Mm.
usually also around this time of year, usually everything's a little bit slower because of that same holiday, everything gets backed up a bit. And so the way it works is basically like OSAP has to contact the OUAC, and so that connection that sometimes that takes a few days. So I would recommend wait until maybe next Monday or Tuesday to see if you heard back and then reach out to them. But with these kind of processes, always try to look at the calendar and look for those holidays because that always affects. If they normally say 5 days, for example, it might be like 7 or 8, depending on those things. Just keep that in mind.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Daniel.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
Are there any other questions?
All right, I have another one. As far as scholarships, it does seem like a lot of them, the deadlines may have passed, particularly for starting in the fall. Um, are you guys aware of any, well, I guess I could check the website that lists a bunch, but I can also do Google. But are you guys aware of any that you would recommend applying to for the fall that are still open or taking applicants?
Um, there's I don't know of any that are for the fall. A lot of the scholarships that I'm aware of are for when you're in the program. You can apply for the second year. Daniel, do you have any input for that?
Yeah, I would say it's exactly like you said, Adele. I think it's a matter of checking the website online because from the department point of view, from our side of things, we see the ones that, like you mentioned, already passed, like the big ones, OGS, SHRC, those ones that kind of happen earlier in the year at this time of the admission process. Eventually, for depending on which programs you guys are in, each program sometimes has their own scholarships, and those ones we are also sort of working with, and Tunisia will sort of send emails out just to remind of applications, but those ones will happen later in the fall or sometimes in the winter, depending on the program. For all the other ones outside of that are kind of like the generic scholarships that WSGPS will sort of manage or centrally the university manages. The website is your best resource, as well as AwardSpring. Um, the website that we put on the chat and that will you get on the links on the presentation, that will have also a calendar usually that you can subscribe to, and that way you can actually make sure that you don't miss any of the deadlines coming up. Because everybody's a little bit different. They come from different backgrounds. You know better what your kind of research it is, what associations you have with your background and things like that. You may want to check those colors yourself to make sure that you know which ones you're actually eligible for, because they all have different eligibility requirements. It's really hard for us to say, okay, this one will be for this person, this one will be for that person, because there's a wide range of requirements. So that's the best advice I can give you in terms of those scholarships. Once you have your TMU email address and everything's activated, so closer in August, September, the best thing to do is to sign up for AwardSpring. And I believe we do have a presentation coming up for AwardSpring in early September.
Late
But
September.
base Mid-September. So in that one, that's basically the university system that will match you with scholarships that are coming up. Basically, all you have to do is you go in the system, you log in, and you answer a few questionnaires about your situation, your background, financial situation, those kinds of things. And then the system will automatically sort of populate with scholarships that you're eligible for based on the information that we have within the university. Now, that's only for inside university scholarships, right? It's important for that system that you update it every semester or anytime there's a change in your situation. So maybe you got a new job and your income went up, go in the system and update it. Maybe your contract finished at a job and your income went down, change it in the system because that will always change the eligibility. So it's very important to make sure that you always update it all the time. And that's for a WordSpring. And again, we'll send more information about that one later once in September because unfortunately right now nothing you can log in until you get your TMU email address activated. And then at that point you're able to log in and start completing all the information.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Are there any more questions?
Just maybe what people think, just a couple things to mention. I think the most important part about this session today is for any questions about student financial assistance and stuff like that, try to think ahead, try to plan, always have a backup plan. I think Tanisha mentioned having a line of credit. I think that's a really great thing to have, especially if it doesn't charge you interest if you're not using it. It could just be sitting in your bank account as a backup. I know myself when I was a student, I had one, and actually I still have it, to be honest, many years later. Eventually becomes a regular line of credit, but it's just there as a backup. And at some point or another, I was, I think, working on an MRP project, and I was finishing it, and I needed a big chunk of cash. I took it in there. Eventually, I was able to pay it off fairly soon. But he just helps you in those situations where you need like a quick influx in your financial situation. So take a look at talk to your bank, talk to your financial institution, and it'll definitely help. And for anything else, OSAP stuff like that, definitely contact the Student Financial Assistance Office. They're the best people. They can answer specific questions, go sit with you, and go through your application if you're having specific details or problems with the application.
I had a question. So I think the process sort of indicated that there are awards that are scholarships because you've made the applications to the, say, MDM program that you automatically get like registered for, right? Like an option to be able to receive a scholarship or a grant. I'm curious if that has been already allocated for the fall term, or you were expecting to do that at a later stage.
Are you referring to the admissions funding that you received?
Yeah, I think like I wasn't sure if we were supposed to sort of get advised if you were going to get any admissions funding with our offer of admissions,
Yeah.
or if there's like a separate process.
I think, and you're in the MDM program you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it varies a little bit by program, but generally speaking, the ones you're mentioning, there's two main ones, I guess, that apply to that: the Toronto Med Graduate Fellowship and the Toronto Med Graduate Development Award. So these are the ones that are basically part of the admissions process. So as soon as you submit your admissions application, the admissions committee will review your application, and based on available funding and available a number of students in the program, they will distribute some of that funding as they send offers of admission. And so in your actual letter of offer of admission, when you log into the TMU portal, you should be able to see if any funding was granted to you based on your admissions application. It will be listed in that letter. It again, like I said, it varies by programs, depending on again funding available, but also the number of students and so on. And so, if you receive funding, it will be listed there as either one of those two: the TMGF, which is the Toronto Med Graduate Fellowship, or the TMGDA, which is the Toronto Med Graduate Development Award. And so you check out that letter and see if you received it there. But now that those ones would have been notified already as soon as you got your offer of admission. The only exception to that is if the program is as they're doing the process, there may be some cancellations, there may be some changes, there may be some people that maybe change their mind about coming to the program and things like that. In some cases, we're able to then reallocate that funding if it becomes available. And it could be basically that will be more in either an email that goes out to the students and say, hey, apply to this scholarship that now became available. Or in some cases, they'll just assign it to the next person that applies to the program, depending on what time of the admissions process this happens. But those are kind of the two main exceptions. But mainly for those, most of that funding has been allocated, I believe, for most students. Jamila, if you're not sure, or if you can see that in your offer letter, feel free to email the digital media program directly at digitalmedia@torontome.ca, and either myself or Emily Hall will be able to review your profile and check if the funding's there, if you were allocated, and how much, and those kinds of things.
Okay. I had another question, please.
Yeah.
So, I'm actually recovering from a car accident, and I think I'm recovered like physically a fair bit, but I still have some challenges. So I wanted to connect with within kind of accessibility or sort of an organization within your university where I might be able to sort of get registered and sort of work through the system to be able to get some accommodations made.
Sure. We have an accommodations office, even for like temporary accommodations. Daniel, you were able to grab the link?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
coming up
great.
in the chat in a second.
Yes, Daniel's gonna put it in the chat. So I'm glad that you're having this conversation with us, because doing it sooner rather than later is important. You want to make sure that when you start classes that everything's in place for you.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the plan, is to just sort of be able to anticipate and kind of organize things ahead of time, right? And I wanted to make a provision for that, and then just work within the guidelines and the processes and registration and systems, so forth, right? So that would be one. Now, because like in the application process, I don't remember that there was an opportunity to be able to disclose like some of my limitations, right? So, and I don't know if that affects the awards aspect of it or not. Can you say anything with respect to that?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I
Daniel.
can jump in if I want. So first of all, I'm glad you're recovering, and hopefully everything goes well, and wish you the best. Secondly, I think the academic accommodation support office is the ones that deals with all of anything related to accommodations and things like that. So your first step, like you're doing right now, is perfect to connect with them first. Do it early, register. They have a whole process and things to follow, so that on the academic side, they sort of connect you with the right people, notify the instructors, all those kinds of things. It's actually, you have to kind of do it, I believe, every term. So it's actually great timing that you're kind of doing this now. So that's great. In terms of specific awards for that, they will also be the office that you want to contact to connect to see what's available. And if there's any specific sort of assistance, bursaries, support, anything they can provide or they can connect you to, because it's so again, it's on a case-by-case basis, really, depending on the individual. And so that'd be sort of the office that can sort of guide you in that situation based on your circumstances. After that, obviously, once you start the program and everything, if anything, and then this applies to everybody, by the way, if any point in time you're in the program, you're struggling, you're having a hard time, you need support, the first thing you should do is contact us. So send us an email to the program, or send a quick appointment with one of the advisors, depending on what your program is. And then we'll meet with you and we'll see what we can do to support and help. Again, depending on the situation, it's again taken on a case-by-case basis. I can't necessarily promise we'll have money for everybody and everything, but we always try to do our best to support everyone in when they're going through difficult situations or exceptional circumstances. The same goes for, I mean, this is at a faculty level, but the same goes with graduate studies as a faculty. They usually have special funds and things like that for, again, extenuating circumstances. So the best thing is, Shamila, the first thing to do is contact the academic accommodation support office, chat with them, register, get all that process done, connect with them, see if they have any supports based on your situation or what you need, and then they can guide you. And then starting in September, once you're in the program, let us know again, or can you just even now, just let us know later on how everything's going, and then we can see what other options and other opportunities we have to help.
Yeah, I'm actually like in fairly close geographic distance from the university, so I can get there like within 10-15 minutes. So I was
Nice.
going to try to be able to take a tour around, familiarize myself with the layout and things like this, and try to sort of, I don't know, calm the nervous system before the classes begin.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just going to try and familiarize with. And is there like an opportunity to kind of get a tour or anything like that of the schools, maybe kind of meet with some of the professors and stuff like that, or anything like, do you have any of those kinds of opportunities?
On the summertime, the campus stores are usually closed, but I'll put the link in the chat in a second. That's like the just general it's called general campus stores that show you what all the every buildings are, and so everybody knows, so you know where everything is basically as a general. Let me just put up the link in a second. Specifically for the program for digital media, again, I would suggest contacting digital media at torontome.ca, or for anybody else who wants to do that same thing, just contact the program, and then we can see what's possible this time of year. During the summer, it's a lot, not a lot of the facilities, but many of the facilities is kind of the time that we use to sort of refresh, revamped, adjust, upgrade the computer systems, those kinds of things. And so depending on when you're available or when you contact us, we'll have to figure out what's actually open at that time to make sure that we can actually show you certain things. In terms of faculty, usually the summertime, except for the ones that are teaching in the summer, usually the July, actually starting now, basically to about mid-August, a lot of the faculty go away. That's kind of their vacation period, I guess, in some cases. And so again, we'll have to double check who's available and things. But in terms of staff, Tunisia and myself, and other colleagues here, the program administrators, are usually around most of the summer. So we may be able to work something out in terms of at least showing you some of the offices that we have access to and that we can work with you. I know for digital media specifically, they usually do a tour during orientation. So they'll send you an orientation sort of dates. If you don't have them already, I think they're happening, top of my head, I want to say it's end of July, and there's more in August for digital media. But they'll usually do like a tour of the main facilities that you'll have access to and that you'll be working in. Same for the other programs, usually at the end of August. I think it's at the end of August, beginning of September, we'll have orientation for the rest of the programs. And same thing, we'll try to give you at least a slight tour of the facility so you know exactly where everything is. Once you're in the program, same thing. If you're at any point in time, you're like, oh, I heard about this cool facility. I don't know where it is. I don't know who to contact, stuff like that. The easiest thing is just send us a quick email and we'll try to put you in touch with the right person. Or if we have access, we can give you a quick guided tour. But generally speaking, we'll put you in contact with someone who manages facility or someone who can guide you, give you the right access for it.
Yeah, I noticed that we had to sort of confirm, like accept or decline the offer of admission by yesterday. So, and then I'm guessing that there's like a class schedule, right? Like for kind of your mandatory courses that you need to take first. So, is it possible to see when those classes are at this point, or how to be able to navigate to get there, right? So, in a way, like say if you had like a part-time job or something like that, we can sort of organize that ahead of time or work around that system, right? Do you have can you give me
Yeah.
some guidance on that?
Yeah. So scheduling, it's still in progress for most of our programs, I believe. I think we're finalizing it as we speak. So you will get it's usually via email. So once the schedule is finalized, we'll usually send you either a preview of the schedule, just to give you an idea of when the classes are, the times, days, those kinds of things, as well as a course selection form, depending on how the programs are doing it. So they do it together. Sometimes they do it 2 different emails. And at that point, you can sort of see the schedule. Now we're hoping we'll have everything. I mean, last year, just to give you an example, last year we had it finalized around mid-July. So we started sending some of that information by the third or last week of July, I think, if I remember correctly. And so
Yeah.
at that point, you'll have usually about a week or two, maybe 3 weeks, depending, to sort of review the schedule, see what's available, see where it is, and then you can then do your course selection, which then you'll forward to the program, and then the program will then do the enrollment. But that'll be sort of like in terms of timing, over the next 3 weeks, I would say 3, 4 weeks, just like receiving some of the information directly via email.
Okay. Okay. No, that helps. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Does
Are there
anybody have any questions? Any
Yeah.
other questions? Sorry, did you?
It's okay. We're asking the same thing.
Oh, I have one more, sorry. In terms of like, I think there was sort of like one of the electives is set up as like an industry partnership, right? So maybe you can, and it's available in each term. Could you talk a little bit about that as to how that works, how it's set up? Is it through our initiation? Is it through TMU organization, or is it both, or what the process is like for that?
That one is, I think, it's a very specific course or a specific portion for digital media. So that
Yeah.
one we'll have to probably double check with them directly, I would say. The way I understand it is it's not necessarily so there's courses and there's milestones. And so for digital media, and again, I'm not certain which one you're going with, but there's there's specific courses that would work. They'll have a kind of like a partnership or kind of like a startup type of component to it. Like there's the zone learning that we have here at TMU, and there is actually a course that attached to the zone learning. Zone learning is kind of like an incubator or a hub, so that you can basically work on a project or develop your own sort of startup and things like that. That's what zone learning is all about. Now, attached to that, there is basically a course, so you can get a credit as you're building sort of your project, your idea, and things like that. That kind of helps you do that. Now, that is just an elective, and they just count as a regular elective. The zone learning will provide some context, some information, depending on what the project is, or depending on what the actual idea that you may have or startup that you're trying to work on. The way that it's sort of the way it sort of works kind of changes, and it's almost like you have a faculty member and it kind of guides you and tutors you to develop it with certain requirements. And I can see if I think there's a website for that course. I'll try to find it for you. That's one way. The second thing that digital media specifically offers is as part of their milestones, you have basically 3 options for their milestones. So you can do a research paper or MRP, which is the one. You have a course-only option, which basically instead of doing MRP, you do a few extra electives. And the one that you're mentioning is kind of like a industry partnership slash startup slash working on a project with an institution. That one is you will have more information of that usually once you actually are in the program. A little bit in the first semester, but probably more in the second or third semester. And your advisor and your instructors will sort of guide you as to how that works, because it will be very differently if you're working with this, like for example, it's like a group type project. Usually 3 or 4 people get together and we connect them with a industry partner that we may already have. There's another one where basically you can actually do it alone or in a group. You can create your own project, or you can just work on your own individual projects. So it's very different depending on which of the 3 streams sort of you choose. And so for that, I would say the best option is to wait for the when you actually are in the program and to discuss it with your advisor or with I think it's one of your first classes. You'll probably have either the program director Lorena Escandon drop by and talk about it, or Namir, who's one of the one of the managers in there as well, the digital media program, that come in and talk about you how that works. And then at that point, that's where you choose sort of what's the best connections for your project. But it's a lot of it is, and this is kind of grad school in general, a lot of the in grad school, a lot of the support is based on your individual research or in your individual project. And so it's very different than like an undergrad degree where this is the process, A, B, C. It's a little more guided or targeted based on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to research, what you're trying to work on. Because again, the goal of graduate school is obviously to make sure that you have that that knowledge, that research, that ability to get the very specific thing that you're looking for in your milestone projects, research, or components. So hopefully that kind of helps. I know it's not a very direct answer, but it's hard to give you the specifics just because it's all dependent on the individual project you decide to work on.
That helps quite a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Okay.
And just so everybody, while we wait, just so everybody, I'm putting that course that I mentioned, the zone learning course on the chat, so you can actually take a look at the website there. It'll give you an idea of what I was just talking about.
Okay, well, thank you, Daniel. And thank you everyone for taking the time to join this session. I hope that information was useful to you and that even the question and answer session, you found utility in it as well, even though it was specific to one student. Hopefully you found some helpful information through Daniel's answers. So again, thank you so much, and bye for now. We can end the recording.
Thank you, everyone. Look forward to having you in the fall.
Bye.